welcome to another episode of the Grow For It podcast. Our goal is to highlight leaders in the personal development coaching industry and to give you a glimpse into what's working and what challenges they're facing in their own businesses so that you can learn from that and grow in both your business and your personal life as well. Today we have a very special guest, Naeemah, and she has won multiple awards for acting and theater. She's excelled in the corporate finance world and given a great TEDx talk called Thriving as an Outsider. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend watching that. And Naeemah specializes in coaching on leadership, imposter syndrome, and public speaking. Naeemah, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Nathan. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. So as mentioned, you've had an interesting career. You didn't start out as an entrepreneur. You didn't start out in coaching. Can you walk me through your journey of how you got into coaching and what it was like starting out doing your own business?
Absolutely. So I started coaching within an organization, just kind of on the side. I was working with a research team, and we had a bunch of introverts who had to present their research at research retreats and things like that. And my manager asked me to use some of my theater background to help them to be stronger on the stage. And I said, I don't know how to do that. Like I'm an actress. I know how to learn lines and do what I'm told. I'm not used to, teaching other people. And so she challenged me and asked me to figure it out. And so that was back in 2010. And I started working with the researchers. I built my first coaching model, my first public speaking workshop. And it's funny. So I delivered that workshop today. I've delivered it over 100 times. It looks very much like the first one I created. So whatever instinct drove creating that first one worked. And so I started teaching public speaking within that group, and then it kind of expanded across the organization. They invited me to teach some of the early career rotational employees. They invited me to teach the interns, the co-ops. And so I was working with the young professionals just emerging into the company. Well, the cool thing that happened was, as they moved into the company, into their businesses, into their teams, they would invite me to come in to either do the public speaking workshop or to teach other things to their teams. And so I got to expand, I got to practice, I got to play and really kind of develop my technique. And I stayed with the company for about 13 years. And when it was time for me to go, I was looking for what was next. I was doing a little bit of interviewing, talking to some different companies. And at some point, what I realized was that I wasn't interviewing honestly. I was really kind of shopping my capabilities. I wanted somebody to hire me to do what I wanted to do and not necessarily to conform me to a role that they were looking to hire. And so I accidentally found a client who wanted me to come in and run a retreat and do some coaching. And then I accidentally found another client who wanted me to come in and do some coaching. And I said, I think I accidentally started a business. And so then I leaned into that and started, just kind of publicizing and reaching out to folks who I had worked with over the years, doing the coaching within the confines of the corporation. And they were open to it. They were excited about bringing me into their companies, and it sort of blossomed from there.
Wow, that's fantastic. So it sounds like for the most part, it was a pretty natural transition for you.
It was.
Were there moments along those lines where it was tough because you had gone from working in corporate settings and 9 to 5 and running your own business and being your own boss isn't quite the same?
Absolutely. I worked at a bank. I had gotten used to a very comfortable living. I have 3 children. I left the bank the summer before my first son went to college.
Wow.
It was a very questionable choice at that time in my life, but it made sense. And so I just decided I would kind of go with it. So there were challenges. There were points where I had to ask for a forbearance on my mortgage because I didn't have the money to pay my mortgage every month. I went into credit card debt, right? Like the financial challenges of going from a regular paycheck every 2 weeks and knowing that you have that security to sporadic income was really challenging for me, especially coming from, I've been working since I was 10 years old. There were very few points in my life where I didn't have a job. And a job being something that I went to every single day. And so I had the discipline to create that structure for myself. And in the beginning, it was just a lot of business development and a lot of people asking me to come and speak for free. And so, I did that to create visibility and to build my technique and to build my brand. And then people started paying me to speak, and it kind of grew from there. But it was absolutely scary in the beginning because I had never been without the security of that weekly or biweekly paycheck. And, and I find at times that I question, why am I not more anxious? Why am I not more afraid? But I also find that in these moments, I am happier than I've ever been. I am absolutely living my purpose. I'm helping other people to live their purpose. And, with purpose, abundance will follow.
That's great. That's fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I'm sure those are some tough times, but it's good to see how far you've come from now. And then you started out, from what I understand, with imposter syndrome and dealing with that. And now you're on stages leading large groups of professionals and teaching how to avoid that. Can you dive into a little bit about how you were able to overcome that and how that's a core part of your teaching now?
So what's interesting is that I've always lived the fake it till you make it lifestyle. So I've spent a lot of time of my life in front of rooms and owning spaces where I felt like, oh my goodness, at any second now, somebody's going to realize I have no idea what I'm doing. I think that was always in the back of my mind as I grew through the corporate ranks, as I've led rooms and presented in all of the things. But the recognition that people receive what you present, people receive who you tell them you are. And so deciding that I was going to present myself as a confident person, I was going to carry myself as a confident person, meant that I could have the life that I wanted. But in terms of changing the way I felt on the inside, I'll tell you, and it's funny, I told the story to a friend of mine and she was like, that's not what that book is about. So there's a book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And he talks about your zone of genius, your zone of excellence, your zone of competence, and your zone of incompetence. And I've read this book 3 times, and I taught it in a retreat once. I love this book. The first time I read this book, what I took away from it was how it reshaped my concept of imposter syndrome. And she was right. That's not what the book was about. It was necessary for me to go read it another time. But what it did for me was it gave me the ability to think about the imposter syndrome in alignment with the zone of incompetence. And I want to explain, the zone of incompetence is not things I'm not capable of doing. It's things I don't care enough about or need in my life. And so therefore I don't give the energy to actually be great at it. And it doesn't matter. I don't need to be great at it. I don't care. Right. And so for me, my imposter syndrome in corporate showed up whenever I found myself in a place where I needed to do business as usual. So I'm a creator, I'm a designer, I'm a transformer. When I come into a space, I look around and I'm like, okay, what can we do differently? And I come up with ideas and plans for how we make things better. I'm very good in that space. As soon as we get past the building something new and into the, we're going to do this every day for the rest of our lives, my brain shuts down. I just can't care about it. And the problem was I was working in corporate spaces where the expectation was you'd move into a role, you'd do the transformation, and then you'd live the role. And every time we got to the live the role part, I would get anxious. Like, oh, I'm going to fail. I'm going to be really terrible at this. People are going to realize I'm a fraud. It's going to be really awful. And I had all this language for myself about how I'm failing. And when I read this book the first time, and he talked about your zone of incompetence and this idea of this space that you don't have to be good at it. You don't want to be good at it. You don't need to be good at it. And you get to say, I don't care about that. And I never in my life allowed myself to say, I don't care about that. Whatever challenge was thrown at me, it was like, I can do it. I can figure it out. And so allowing myself to say, I don't care about that. I don't want that removed me from the language of, I'm a fraud. I'm a failure. People are going to realize I don't know what I'm doing, to, I just don't care about it. I just don't want to live in that space. And so I'm going to move into more spaces where I really want to operate. I'm going to own my zone of genius. I'm going to live in my zone of genius. And I'm going to leave that to somebody who gets excited about coming in and having their day-to-day be static and consistent and knowable. I don't want it to be knowable. I want surprises. I want new. I want different. I want challenges. And those who want the knowable, that's their zone of genius, and they should sit in that space. So it wasn't a matter of me needing to discover that I was worthy or needing to discover that I was good enough. It was a matter of me reframing and discovering new language for this space and being able to decide that it's okay that I don't.
That's fantastic. That's really valuable for people that are out there just starting, I'm sure, who are still figuring out. I'm sure there's a lot of feeling of wanting to know everything or feeling like people expect you to know everything or be an expert in everything. But it's good to know that you found a lot of success in honing in on your strengths and being okay with not being an expert in everything, maybe calling in experts in certain areas where you need them.
Exactly.
That's great. I think along these same lines, one of the things that stuck out to me on your TED Talk, and maybe you can speak to this a little bit more, was you had said something about how you had come to the realization that it was important for you to rewrite your own narrative and the way you think about things from I'm not ready for this to I can figure this out.
So I think I've had a lot of really great leaders in my life, great mentors, great leaders. And the phrase figure it out came to me over and over again from various different people throughout my career. When I first started working as an executive assistant, because I wanted to do theater at night and I wasn't interested in a job that was going to challenge me or push me. I just needed to have a day job that paid the bills so I could be a starving artist. And I would come into spaces and they're just like, I need you to go do this. And I'm just like, I just want to book travel, schedule meetings, keep it simple. And they'd say, no, I need you to go figure it out. And I'm like, I don't know that. I don't understand that. That's this isn't my space. I just came here to, keep you on schedule. Right. And that was my focus, right? Just keeping it narrow, keeping it in this zone and not expanding, not doing bigger things. And I think part of it was I felt like this is something I know, this is something that I'm comfortable with. So I can do this thing in this very small space and do my theater and be really happy. And I kept having people say to me, figure it out about different things, every job, right? Different things, every job, every role. And so as I continued to move forward, the figure it out challenged me to step outside of my comfort zone repeatedly. And eventually what I learned was whatever it is, I can figure it out, right? There are no limits to what I can figure out. And getting the mindset of yeah, I deserve to be here. I have the right to try. I have the right to figure it out just like anybody else. I don't have to know everything. I don't have to be an expert before I step in the room. I can just say, hey, take a chance on me. Let's figure it out together, right? And so shifting from, I don't know how to do that, keep me in my small lane where I'm safe and where I'm comfortable, to really being able to own, I want to explore, I want to try new things, and it's okay for me to want that, and I'm capable of handling that. That was a shift as I operated in bigger and bigger spaces, bigger titles, bigger expectations, and then even in spaces where I wasn't assigned to be, right? So I was doing some communication around the organization about some things that I was passionate about in terms of, diversity and intention around how you're hiring, how you're treating your employees, how you're creating spaces for people to thrive and those kinds of things. And, so I'm talking to folks in my lane, about the things that I think are important. And mostly it was about hiring and promotion. And I had an executive call me and say, I want you to come and speak to my leadership team about how we should be thinking about this diversity work. And I was like, whoa, I don't know if I can guide a leadership team on what their strategy should be. But he invited me into the room. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll figure it out. Right. And I know what I know about hiring, about promotion, about visibility, about accessibility. I know what it feels like to not have a network at all and to step into a space and not have any idea how you're going to move forward. And so I know what it feels like to be the person who has no access. I know what it feels like to be a person who has access. And I know what it means to be a person with access who gives that access to other people. So I took that as a framework, and then I just went in and answered their questions and talked to them about here's how I want you to think about creating that access. And I think those are the kinds of conversations that led me to the work that I do, right? So the Thriving as an Outsider really focuses on, as a person with no access, how do I create it? How do I get it, right? What do I have to do to change my position of no access? And then Leadership Legacy really focuses on, as a person with access, how do I open doors? How do I create space? How do I cultivate growth and development? And, and I tell leaders, you have a young person on your team who comes from a family who works in trades or labor. That person doesn't have a background or a foundation in this professional space. They don't know anybody. They don't have any network. They're figuring it out. And a lot of things that you take for granted have never occurred to them. So I want you to treat them like you would treat your niece or your nephew if they were just stepping into the company, where you would say, hey, on this team, you want to be careful about how you interact with this person. Or, hey, I want to make sure that you reach out and you get to know this person. Right? The way that you would create relationships and interaction for your niece or your nephew, I want you to do that same thing for the young person on your team who comes in with no network.
That's fantastic. That's a lot of wisdom you just shared there. A lot for the value of self-reflection, as well as just the value of being willing to try new things, and not even just willing, but comfortable understanding that not everyone expects maybe what you're expecting in the same way, and you might have value to add even more than you realize.
Yeah.
What would you say to change it slightly, the topic here where we're going? What would you say has been one of the proudest moments in running your own company? Or could you share a recent success story that you've had?
So a recent success story, because it's super fresh. I ran a series of workshops for an organization last week. We did Thriving as an Outsider on Wednesday, which was about owning your story, asking for what you want, creating visibility for yourself. And then on Friday, we did Leadership Legacy. Now that you have access, what do you do with it? How do you create it for other folks? At the end of the Leadership Legacy session, we had a Q&A, and one of the people dropped into the chat, I did what you told us on Wednesday. I asked for what I wanted, and I just got the assignment to run a large new project that we're building. And
wow. That's pretty quick results.
Yes. Wednesday to Friday. And he went into the office next day, and he asked for what he wanted, and to now have, this new assignment, this new project. And that was extraordinary. It was immediate. It's fresh in my mind. It just happened last week, and I'm still excited about it. Right. So that's a really exciting win for me. I would say, in general, when a client gets the offer, right? They come to me and they're like, here's my situation. I need something different. I've never posted on LinkedIn. My resume hasn't been updated in 10 years. I've forgotten how to interview, but I need to take that next step. Can you help me? Or I need to move within my company and my brand is very small. How do I change the way they think about me so they'll take a chance on me for the leadership position? When I have those conversations to start, and we do the work, resume, interview prep, LinkedIn, building your brand, the conversations you're having, the relationships you're building, all the things that you build between the decision and the offer. And we get to the point where they reach out and they say, I got the offer. I'm so excited. I got the offer. And then they follow the negotiation techniques that I've taught them. And so not only do they get the offer, but they get the offer at the level that they were hoping and that they feel comfortable and excited about. That for me is so much joy, right? Because we're talking about taking folks who are stepping into the process feeling like, I'm not going to get what I want. I have to go and hire someone because this isn't going to be possible for me. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. And coming from that place to promotion, salary increase, visibility, and opportunity is absolutely extraordinary. So that, so that's it's a concept as opposed to like a specific moment, but I've had this moment happen repeatedly since I launched my business. And that's the place that like brings me like extraordinary joy.
I love that. And that's great to see. You definitely are confirming for me what you had said earlier about finding your passion. And that's awesome to see how you are able to jump in and help people that are in need and kind of transform them almost into a new person, equip them with valuable skills and see them come out on the other side successful. That's got to be pretty fulfilling.
It's extraordinary.
That's great. If you had to pick one thing in your business right now that's driving the most growth, what would that be?
It would be the testimonials. My clients are they're posting about the work that we're doing together. They're talking to their colleagues. They're talking within their organizations. I've had a couple of folks reach out to me from companies that I'm already partnering with to say, we were looking for a speaker. So-and-so sent me your TED Talk and said, this is the person you need to bring in. So within a company, having one department tell another department that I'm the person that they need to bring in has been really powerful. That's happened a few times in the last month. And so the testimonials, the public feedback from my clients is generating the next experience within that same organization. And then more broadly, I have people reach out and say, hey, I'm reaching out because, this person said that you are a person that I should talk to if this is the work that I need done. So I think the testimonials have been the most powerful aspect. And then the second would be just in person. So I go to a lot of conferences, I go to a lot of events, and in those spaces, I try to make myself visible. I try to talk to as many people as possible, build as many relationships as possible in person. And then those generally turn into opportunities for working with organizations and helping them grow.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, what would you say is the hardest part about running your business right now?
So this month it's business development. I've got 12 client events this month, plus all of my one-on-one coaching clients, the podcasts and the various different events and things that I'm doing that are not sort of formal speaking engagements. So the volume of work that I'm doing this month is consuming. And so being able to maintain business development and the follow-ups and that kind of thing, I think is probably the biggest challenge in this month.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that. Every business has something they're struggling with. So I appreciate your honesty there. What would you say over the last year has been your biggest challenge with attracting or retaining customers or clients?
The biggest challenge with attracting or retaining clients, I think it's that you have to be willing to play the long game, right? I'll have a conversation with someone, we'll meet, we'll absolutely hit it off, and then we'll have a little bit of back and forth, and then it might be, they might disappear for a while and not respond to emails for a couple of months. And then they'll see something that I post and they'll message me and say, oh my goodness, I saw your post, that was great, I owe you a follow-up. Or I'll see them at an event and they'll say, I'm so sorry that I ghosted you, I've been thinking about you and I just was waiting for the moment. And so sometimes it's that our conversation is not in the right place in the budget cycle for it to be feasible. Sometimes it's that they just hired someone to do this kind of work. And so it doesn't make sense for them to hire a different person to do this work, at the same time. And so just being in the right place at the right time is really important. And so I'm I'm learning that, and I'm also learning that the consistency is important. So you might have a great conversation with someone. It might require, some follow-up. And then I just kind of keep them on the list, right? And I may not hear, they may not respond to the February email, the April email, the June email, the August email. And then I post something in September, and they're like, oh my goodness, that spoke to me. Let's play. And so staying in the loop, keeping them posted on what you're up to and how you're showing up in the world, the kind of work that you're doing, and then just following up, even if they're not responding, following up, giving them an unsubscribe option if they want to kind of tap out, but just kind of keeping that conversation going, even if it's one-sided for a while. My sister is also an entrepreneur, and she talks about how she had a year of follow-up with a person who she was almost ready to sign, and then they just disappeared. And then after a year, they followed up, and they were just like, okay, so we want to get this going next month. What do we need to do to get this, to get it launched immediately? And so just keeping yourself present, keeping yourself visible, I think is really important. And eventually, most things get to where you want them to be.
That's great. Thank you. Where would you say, thinking about the future and future goals, where do you envision your business being 12 to 18 months from now?
So my focus in this next cycle is keynotes. And so I'm looking for opportunities to speak on bigger stages. Later this month, I'll be speaking at the Texas Conference for Women. So in an arena with 8,500 people. 8,500? Yeah. And so that's a pretty substantial audience. And so building from there. So I'm looking to speak on more conference stages, and I'm looking to speak on international stages. So I think I've done a pretty good job of building a business in the Northeast in the US. I have done a pretty good job of sort of building out clientele across the country, Chicago, Austin, Atlanta, Knoxville, right? So I'm moving around the country and doing things, expanding. The next step for me is really getting more intentional about getting on stages overseas.
That's great. What do you think you have to do differently from what you're currently doing, or what systems would you have to have in place to make that happen?
So I think part of it is sort of intentionally seeking out international audiences. So like I said, I trained 4,500 people when I was at my previous corporation. A lot of them are now living, in Japan, in Singapore, in London, Berlin, in Nairobi, in Cairo, right? So people that I have coached and that I have worked with, the audience have been my market. And so now I need to sort of pivot from thinking about all of my relationships in the Boston area and really start sort of digging in on the relationships that exist outside of the US and look for those opportunities to pull me to different locations around.
Great. That's fantastic. That sounds like a good plan. Very cool. What about if you could free up 10 to 20 hours of your week, what would you focus on instead of what you're currently focused on? I know you had mentioned that you're in a phase right now that's very, very busy for you, and some things might get maybe neglected at the moment, but what are your thoughts there?
If I could free up 10 to 15 hours a week, I think I would get more intentional about some of the creating things, right? So, or maybe not, right? Like my workshops and my trainings are really driven by my clients, right? They either pick something that I've already done, or they say, can you do this, right? And the can you do this leads me to write a new workshop. It leads me to write a new series. And so the relationships with the clients are really what drive the content. And that's really exciting because it means that I'm able to iterate with the client and create something really meaningful for a client who needs it in that moment. So if I could clear up, 10 to 15 hours, I think, I'd spend more time with my kids and, probably do a little bit more travel. And that's my goal, right? I love travel. I grew up poor, and travel was not, it wasn't something that was possible for me. And I really started to travel more later in my adult life. My kids are all going to college overseas. And so taking them to visit colleges and taking them places all around the world has been extraordinary for me. And I think with more capacity, I would do more travel.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Wow, they're all overseas. That must be tough as a mother sometimes.
No, I mean, they come home just as often. So universities outside of the US are significantly less expensive. And so I have more capital that I can use for me to travel and for them to travel. So I can bring them home regularly and still not get anywhere near the cost of universities in the US.
Wow.
So I've got one son in the UK and one son in Japan. And, we have regular calls where we FaceTime or, go on WhatsApp and check in that way. And so we see each other pretty regularly there. In my mind, my son who's in the UK is not any further than he would be if he had gone to California. My son in Japan's a little bit further. It's, about a 24-hour trip to get together. But they are also finding opportunities to meet each other, right? So they can come together in other parts of the world and continue their exploration, even if I'm not, there and a part of it. So I want them to see the world and be able to explore. And the fact that their university experiences are so much less expensive means that they have the ability to do that.
Wow. Well, I had no idea about that. That's a good parenting tip right there. What about in your industry? How do you see technology and automation playing a role in your industry or in your own personal business growth in the next few years? So
I'm actually doing a talk about my relationship with ChatGPT at the Texas conference.
Great.
I started off, as a sort of resistor, I'm like, it's cheating, right? Like that was my perspective. This is cheating. And and then really started to kind of examine it and think about is it what does it mean? How does this kind of sit in our lives? How can this sit in our lives? And, and I had to make the parallel of when I was working in corporations and I was a corporate leader and I had teams, I had people who did a lot of things for me. I had people who booked my travel. I had people who took care of my marketing, who took care of any sort of sales needs. I had people who wrote things, who designed things. I outsourced a lot of things, right? I was a leader and a coordinator, and I brought things together and I designed vision, and there were other people who did a lot of the work. So the idea of outsourcing responsibility is not something that's new to me. Delegation was hard. I had to learn to do it. But once I learned to do it, it was something I got to be really comfortable with. So when I think about my relationship with, and ChatGPT is just, an example, I think about it in terms of this is my new direct report, my new team, right? So I can use ChatGPT to help me to do a lot of things that I would hire teams to do, but I'm not in a position at this point. I'm a solopreneur. I don't have a team yet. And so I can hire ChatGPT to do these things. I can also utilize ChatGPT where I would use a peer, right? So I might reach out to a subject matter expert at another part of the organization to say, hey, can you help me to understand this? Well, now I can go to ChatGPT to help me to understand other concepts and other functional areas where I'm not an expert. And I can also use it as a mentor and an advisor. So I can create something and go in and say, what am I missing? What am I not thinking about? And it can help me to kind of take a different perspective on what I've written, what I've created, and help me to think about it from a different angle and catch the things that I might not have caught. And if I say, give me five recommendations to make this better, I may only take 2 of them, right? But it's helping me to think about how I might approach something in a different way. So looking at ChatGPT as, my direct report, my peer and subject matter expert, and my mentor, I am able to really engage and operate at a higher level than I would operate if it was just me on my own. I'm bringing in expertise. I'm bringing in extra hands. I'm bringing in different perspectives. And I can do all of that in a way that I don't have to worry about hurting somebody's feelings when I say I hate that. I don't have to, say, a please, thank you, and I'm sorry. I don't have to say, oh, I know this is last minute, but right. I'm able to get what I need in real time when I need it. And that has been a really powerful experience for me. And I use it in my business. I use it in my personal life. The example that I'm going to talk about, or one of the examples I'm going to talk about in the talk, is that taking my son to Japan, we're going into a space where neither of us speaks the language. And there are a lot of logistical and government things that we have to figure out. And there's an order to things. And so instead of going in and doing a trial and error and walking into spaces and discovering, oh, you can't do this until you do that. Oh, you can't do that until you do that. I was able to go into ChatGPT and say, talk me through the process of onboarding my son as a student at this school. And it's like, oh, first you need to do the residence card, and then you need to do this, and then you need to do that. And you have to do them in this order. You can't get a bank account until you have a phone number. You can't get a phone number until you've registered your address. So what the things were that we needed to do, but also the order that it had to be done in order for us to do it efficiently. So now we arrive in Japan, we've got a step-by-step playbook for how we need to navigate our 5 business days, because we had 5 business days before I was leaving to come back. So how do we utilize this time and make sure that we're doing all the things that need to be done, that we have the capacity and the time within the 9 to 5 business, time to do all of the things that need to be done. And that process was clean. It was very clean. And if we had just shown up and said, okay, we're going to figure this out. We know we have this checklist. And so let's just kind of go through and see what happens when, we would have had to repeat visits to offices. We would have had to go here and then go back here and then go back here again, because everything had to happen in a certain way. So when I think about how the AI helps with navigating life, it's not just about, help me to write an email, right? It's not just about, we had a flood in our basement yesterday, right? How do I preserve and save all of these documents in these books, right? It's all of the different things. It's how do I plant, design and decide and plant native plants on the side of my yard. It's how do I what recommendations do you have to make this email better? It's what am I missing in this LinkedIn post, right? It's how do I turn this LinkedIn post into a post that's palatable for Instagram? So all of the things that I need to do to be able to move from step to step to step in an iterative way, right? So I'm involved in the process, I'm guiding the process, I'm giving feedback, and I'm playing through it. So it's learning how I operate, it's learning my voice, it's learning, my style and how I navigate the world. And so what I get back over time is cleaner and cleaner and more directly me. And I'm loving this experience. I think it's been extraordinary in my business and in my life.
Absolutely. That's great. Talking about the international enrollment process, I would not even know where to start or who to call even to think about that.
Exactly. And no language, right? You get there and you can't even really ask, right? People were extremely helpful, but with very limited, communication capability. So I'm I keep my Google Translate on my phone. We got AI translator earbuds. So I can put the earbuds in and I can ask questions and then they'll respond and we can see the conversation on the phone. So I can understand what they're saying and they can understand what I'm saying. So using technology for communication, but that works partially because we know the steps we need to take and we know we're in the right place. If we're in the wrong place and we're having this conversation, then it's okay, well, how do we figure out how to redirect to the proper next step? And it gets a lot more cumbersome. So making it efficient and being able to take the steps in order instead of, roundabout and backwards and forwards has been really powerful.
That's great. It sounds like you're doing a great job at utilizing the tools that are available.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
It's powerful. That's great.
Yeah.
So then what advice for someone who's just starting out their journey in personal development coaching, what advice would you give to them thinking back to your beginning days when you were in their shoes? What's something that you needed to hear back in those days?
So what I tell my clients who are like, I want to be a coach and I got to figure out all of this stuff. The first thing I say is you don't need to worry about the name of your company. You don't need to worry about your brand and your colors. The first thing you want to do is find a client. Find one client. Find somebody in your world, right? Your first client is somebody in your world. It's somebody who knows you and who trusts you. Find a client in your world and work with them and start your first relationship, start your first coaching engagement. And that's going to give you the confidence to take the next step. A lot of what you need to build, you're going to build in reaction to that conversation, right? So when you start working with your first client and you need to create an agreement, then you can go on ChatGPT and you can say, help me to create an agreement. I'm a coach. I would say if you want to be a coach, you should get your ICF certifications. You can get to the credentials if you want the credentials, but definitely get the certifications. So there's sort of 2 levels of certification, and then there's a bunch of hours that you have to get before you can get the credential. Getting the certification is a powerful process. I learned a lot, and I've been coaching for years, right? So do the certification because it's going to help you in terms of how you think about it. And then one of the things that I got from my certification process was a template for an agreement. And you want to have an agreement in place when you're working with your clients. For one-on-one coaching, I encourage people to get payment up front. You don't want to chase payment after the conversation. So you want to make sure that you have something set up for people to be able to pay you prior to the session. I started with Venmo, keep it simple. Eventually you'll get to a point where you'll use a payment system, but Venmo is fine for when you're starting. And everything you need to create, you can create when you need it. Don't feel like you have to sit and build all the processes before you can start your business. Get a client. Get a client, start that first relationship, and start building from there.
That's a great tip. The first client will be probably one of the most impactful because you'll learn so much about the real ins and outs of the industry, and you'll also, I guess, get a real taste of if it's something that you're actually passionate about versus just what you thought it was like.
Yeah. And your first client is generally somebody who's already in your life, so they trust you. So you have a little bit more flexibility to learn on them, right? Your first client is a bit of a guinea pig. But I think, if you're really new to the space, start the process for the certification. There are companies that do the first, so you can get the first level of certification and the second level of certification in this 3 or 4 day weekend. So it's 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day for 3 days straight. And it's very intense. But at the end of it, you have everything you need for that first level of certification. And then you do a second weekend, 3 days, 10 hours a day, and you get the second level. So now you have all of this coaching, training and practice, because part of the 3 days is a ton of practice. So you get to the end of it and, so I would say, you sign up for both of them. And Nathan, I'll share the link for the one that I use. I thought that the process for the company I used was very effective. I was able to do it really quickly and get it done and then move on to actually start doing the work of coaching. You can do it in a 6-month process or a year-long process. Or you can get it done in 3 days and continue to move forward. So I really encourage people, if coaching is a place that you want to play, start that process. And then getting the actual ICF credential then requires you get 100 hours of coaching or something like that under your belt. So that's the next step, but you can have the certifications, you can have the letters behind your name. And that also sort of creates a little bit of gravitas and gets people makes people more likely to want to hire you.
That's fantastic. Well, Naeemah, you are a deep thinker and definitely a thought leader in the space and a very gifted public speaker. I appreciate you sharing some time with us tonight. What would be the best place for viewers to be able to find you, find information on your coaching programs?
So the place that I hang out is LinkedIn. So you can find me as Naeemah Elias on LinkedIn, or you can find me on my website at eliaspresence.com. And I'll share that with you so that people can connect there. But LinkedIn, I'm posting regularly. You can see the work that I'm doing, the conferences that I'm speaking at, and just kind of how I'm playing.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much again. Thank you for all of our viewers. If you found this valuable, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you for the next episode of Grow For It. Thank you, Naeemah.
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks, everyone.